Hello my lovelies, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today I have bought more books on my Kindle. So I'm going to talk you through the books that I've bought, tell you roughly what they're about, and yeah, one day, possibly in the very far distant future, I will tell you what they're like when I eventually get round to reading them. So, without any more waffle and the like, I'm going to start with the first book. So the first book I purchased was Mornings in Jenin by Susan Abulhawa. So this book I saw talked about, recommended by Louise Savage, Simon Savage's mum. And I thought it sounded really interesting. This is a multi-generational book that takes place in Palestine, and I saw a quote that said this book could do for Palestine what the Kite Runner did for Afghanistan. So it's really bringing voice to the people of Palestine and what they are going through. So it follows this family as they go into the Jenin refugee camp, and sort of the devastation and things that happen there, and how some of the younger generations, obviously that is their whole life, so they experience things that you would normally experience in growing up, you know, meeting friends, finding love, all within this this refugee camp where it's full of sort of misery and grief and all those sorts of things. So I think it's going to be quite an upsetting read, quite enlightening about the realities of Palestine, and it's a country that I don't know much about, so I'm keen to learn some more. The next book I picked up is one that's actually on Kindle Unlimited, so if anyone has that, it's available on there, and it's the second in a series. The book is Mustard Seed by Leila Ibrahim. I read the first one, well, I listened to the first one on audio at the beginning of this year and really enjoyed it. This book follows two women. You have Elizabeth Johnson, who is a white woman of privilege who grows up in the antebellum South, and her nurse Mattie, who's a slave on the plantation, and they develop a very strong bond, almost the bond of mother and daughter, and their story goes from there. So the first book focuses on that part of it. This second book then focuses on 3 years after the Civil War, and where those women are and what has happened within their relationship. So really keen to pick that one up, especially after enjoying the first one so much. The next book I picked up was Lancelot by Giles Kristian. So I have seen this one about a bit, doing the rounds on BookTube a bit, but I can't remember where I've seen it. And shockingly, this follows the life of Lancelot. So for anyone who doesn't know who Lancelot is, this is like Arthur's right-hand man. So it's set in 5th century Britain, and we follow Lancelot as he comes through his childhood, is mentored by Merlin, and how he meets Guinevere and Arthur and the things that then happen subsequently from there. So yeah, looks really good. I haven't read any sort of full-on Arthurian legend for ages, so really keen to pick this one up, probably sooner rather than later. Next, I purchased Brooklyn by Colm Toibin, I think is how you pronounce his name, could be wrong. And I read another book by this author earlier this month, spoiler alert, House of Names, and I really enjoyed it. It had a really nice writing style, quite descriptive, quite atmospheric. So I'm keen to give this one a go. And this follows a young woman as she moves from Ireland to Brooklyn in the Depression after World War II. And she has to leave her family behind. She has a sister. It's all quite, obviously, quite upsetting and quite heartbreaking for her, but she moves to Brooklyn, gets a job, meets a nice man, falls in love, and then something happens back home in Ireland that threatens to disrupt her new life and the happiness, I suppose, that she's found over in America. So I think this one will be really lovely. And I haven't really read much about sort of the Irish, and I haven't really read much about the Irish immigration over to America before. So yeah, I think this could be quite an interesting perspective. Next, I have a translated book, When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Labatut. This is translated, I believe, from the Spanish by Nathan West, and it was on the shortlist, I want to say, for the International Book of this year. Might have been long list, I might be wrong. But if I'm honest, I'm not really sure what this one is about. I picked it up because I'm trying to read more translated fiction and also trying to read more books from the International Booker Prize. But it sounds really confusing. So it is fiction, but mixed with factual events, and it's about science. So it features like Albert Einstein, for example, and it's about the sort of line between genius and madness, I believe. So yeah, keen to pick it up and see where it takes it. It may be a little bit too literary for me from the synopsis, but still want to give it a go. You probably heard me say this before, but I'm a scientist by trade, so I find all that sort of thing quite interesting. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Next up is The Giver of Stars. I don't know what happened to my voice then. By JoJo Moyes. This one's been pretty popular, and it's based on a true story. It follows a woman who joins the travelling library that's set up by Eleanor Roosevelt in the 50s. And it follows her friendship with the 4 other women who are involved in that travelling library, their relationship with their husbands or significant others, and the way that men treat them and how they refuse to be curtailed by men in a male-dominated world and continue to ensure that books are reaching people who wouldn't normally have access to them. So, love a book about books. And I think there was another book, The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. I can't remember the author, but I will insert a picture here, which I think follows the same point in history and the same topic. So keen to actually read both of them and sort of compare and contrast and see which I prefer. Next, I picked up half of A Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adiche. So this is set, I believe, in Nigeria. So this is set in Nigeria, and we follow 3 people within this story. We have a young houseboy who works for an acclaimed professor at a university. We also follow that professor's mistress, who gave up a privileged life in Lagos to come and be his lover. And we also follow the twin sister of the houseboy, who I think is quite progressive and doesn't want to conform to the norms that are being imposed on her. The Nigerian army or troops from Nigeria then start to descend on wherever they are, and they have to flee. And it's about then their relationship, the loyalties, the trust and the bonds between them as they're put under some extreme pressure in that situation. So I've heard nothing but good things about this book. I believe it won the Women's Prize a few years ago. And this is an author that I've been really keen to pick up for a while. So Half a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adiche. Next, I picked up a non-fiction, Do No Harm by Henry Marsh. And this is his account of what it's like to be a brain surgeon. So I read Adam Kay's book, the name of which escapes me right now. No, it's gone. Hopefully it'll come back to me. If not, I'll put it up here somewhere. And I found it really interesting to hear about a doctor's perspective of their job. Back in the day, when I was young, I thought I'd quite like to be a doctor. Then I realised that you have to actually be really, really clever for that. And I'm only moderately clever at best. So, so I like to read about other people doing the job that I didn't have the staying power or intelligence to do. So next we have a short story, Serpentine by Philip Pullman. So this is a sort of spin-off story from the Dark Materials trilogy, which is amazing if you haven't read it. In a world where every human has a demon, so a sort of animal companion that's almost sort of their spirit in another creature. So yeah, maybe look up his Dark Materials if you want a better synopsis than that. But for those that are aware of what it is about, this one follows Lyra and Pan as they return to the north after the events of his Dark Materials trilogy. So I am quite keen to pick this up. I have read the next two books, La Belle Sauvage and The Book of Dust, I think they're called, which are sort of the follow-up trilogy, and haven't liked them very much, unfortunately. But the original trilogy, amazing. Oh, so good. You should absolutely pick them up. So keen to see what this one is like and whether it's going to fall on the amazing side or the disappointed side. The next book added to my ridiculously large ebook library is Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis de Bernieres, and this one is a bit of a classic. There was a film many years ago when I was still a kid with Nicolas Cage in. I do remember watching it, don't really remember anything about it except Nicolas Cage was in an army uniform. But I've heard really good things about the book from Grace over at GK Reads, and it sort of inspired me to try and give it a go. And this follows an Italian soldier who goes to the Greek island of Kefalonia, and he is charged with occupying Kefalonia, and obviously the people who live there aren't very happy about it. But as time goes on and the war progresses, set in World War II, as the war progresses, they start to see that he's not actually this horrible bloke, and I'm guessing he plays a mandolin from the title of the book. And a love story ensues, but with all love stories set during World War II, I'm expecting there to be some complications with that that end in heartbreak. So yeah, we'll see what that one's like. Next, I picked up a new release, Sistersong by Lucy Holland, and this follows three sisters in the sort of Saxon era, I believe. One of them has sort of horrible scars from a fire, an accident with a fire. One of them is keen to rule after her father, but because obviously she doesn't have a penis, that's not really the thing that happens in those days. So she's fighting for control, and then you have another sister who really doesn't give a crap about anything that's going on, but just wants to fall in love. And the Saxons are getting more aggressive. A secret comes out, and the family or this sibling relationship is then put at serious jeopardy. So really interested to read that. Haven't read anything from that era ever, so yeah, keen to see what that's like. And the cover is so pretty cover. Next was an out and out cover buy. I didn't even look at the synopsis until just before I was about to film this video. So this is Spirited by Julie Cohen, and this follows three women. One who is grieving for her father and takes on photography. But I think there's some sort of magical element to that. She can photograph things that maybe aren't there. Well, I don't know. Just making stuff up at this point. But yeah, she takes on photography. Then you've got a spirit medium woman. And then there's another woman who's the other side of the world, but somehow links into these two women that meet. And the story sort of rolls from there. It doesn't really give you much more than that in the synopsis. So I'm thinking magical realism. I think it might be set in sort of Victorian times as well. So there's that element also involved. And the character who's the other side of the world is involved somehow in a rebellion. So yeah, keen to see how that all comes together. And it was also a Richard and Judy book club pick. So yeah, if you know who Richard and Judy are, it's one of their picks. Next, I picked up Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I absolutely loved The Black Prism by Brent Weeks, which I read last month. Thought it was outstanding, and I saw that this one was on Kindle deals for 99p, and keen to give this one a go. So this is the first in a different series. This is the Night Angel series, and in this we're following a young boy who sort of has to give up the life that he has had as he knows it to become an apprentice to a renowned assassin in the city where he lives. Sounds interesting. I think this might be a trilogy, I'm not entirely sure, but this was a series that was written before the Lightbringer series, so I wonder if maybe the Lightbringer series is better because it's his newer work, but we shall see. But very keen to pick up some more by Brent Weeks because I was super impressed with The Black Prism. Next, I picked up A Secret History of Witches by Louise Morgan. I have seen several people talk about this on their channels. I don't think I've actually seen a review, but lots of people who have hauled it. And this sounds really, really good. It follows 5 generations of witches from sort of the 19th century through to World War II. And the witchy magic is sort of passed down from mother to daughter. And in each generation, obviously, they have different challenges and trials going on in the world that they are then trying to combat with their magic. So it sounds so good. Absolutely love the cover, and yeah, it would be nice if I could pick this up for sort of Halloweeny season, but we'll see how the TBR goes for October. And the last book that I have to talk to you about today is Careless by Kirsty Capes. So this was a bit of a random pick for me. It's not usually the sort of thing I would pick up, but I was intrigued by the cover and the synopsis, which, to be fair, is quite brief, but sounded interesting to me. And it's about a young girl who finds herself pregnant and she has no one to go to. I think on the synopsis it says something along the lines of she could talk to her social worker, but she hasn't spoken to her for weeks. She could talk to her foster mother, but she doesn't give a crap, or something like that. And then she could talk to the boy who got her in this situation, but something else. I can't quite remember, but basically she has no one to turn to. She's in this situation. She's a young girl, clearly in foster care. And it's about how she deals with that. And I thought that sounded quite intriguing, and I think it'll be a good read. So, my lovelies, that is it for today. I hope that some of these have seemed interesting to you. I hope that some of these have seemed interesting to you. If you've read any, let me know in the comments. If you'd like to buddy read any of them, then also drop that in the comments. Happy to do some more buddy reads. And yeah, if you liked it and you're not subscribed and you'd like to, that'd be amazing. And I will see you Tuesday for another video. All right, cheers guys, bye.